Hey guys, it's Renuo. Just following up from one of the older videos I made, which discussed some of the ways to build sniper, a solo, and small group ganking, and smaller PvP kind of options. One disclaimer was that it was not really meant to be for dueling. Um, these kind of builds don't really work in dueling. There's a few other ways to build using bow, which are quite effective in dueling, but it's not really my play style, so I'm not really talking about that. You might want to look at some other people's builds if you're looking for a very specific dueling build. In any case, you can still beat a number of people one-on-one, quite often in Cyrodiil using this build, and it's extremely effective. Mostly this is to go through what is the options you have, because everyone at the end of the day has their own opinions and tastes, and just going to talk about the pros and cons of going one way or the other, and perhaps some of the essential things that you really need to add in to your build. So the very first thing is talking about the two different types of snipes. So you've got your focused aim and your lethal arrow. So huge majority of players use lethal arrow, and that is because of the heal debuff. You might notice I've got some numbers up on the side of these as well. This is what I'm suggesting is what you want to aim for, weapon damage and stamina wise, if you want to be a hard hitting sniper. But anyway, digressing, that's just why it's there. You want to use what you think you're going to be getting the most advantage from the most. At the end of the day, whenever you look at these things, you think about what kind of PvP you encounter the most and what is going to be most effective for you. So just think about what will be the most necessary. So I'm currently using focused aim, and I'm duoing with another couple of archers quite a lot, and they're using lethal arrow. If neither of them had lethal arrow, I would use lethal arrow for sure. Lethal arrow is very important to have just because of the heal debuff. You might realise that there's a lot of healing in this game, none of which that I get much advantage from. So lethal arrow is really important, but for solo play, either of these choices are very strong. Focused aim, you'll find, is very handy, particularly behind walls and keep defense. You will have the option to use the snipe, the focus aim, and then power up a heavy attack on the time that the original focused aim lands, and deal additional damage because you got weapon power advantage and you got long shot bonus advantage. So you get both a heavy attack and a venom arrow, most likely, off at the same time. So that's why I'm using focused aim. Lethal arrow is still extremely good choice, and you're not losing too much DPS in those sorts of circumstances to really be too worried about going one way or the other. So that's for snipes. Moving on to the often interesting discussion of the poison arrow morphs. So we've got venom arrow, which is the most widely used skill, and poison injection. So the argument is poison injection is a superior DPS option, whereas venom arrow is only going to be useful over poison injection if someone is channeling something, which is true. I think in my personal taste, the slight extra poison damage done with poison injection is not enough of a boost over the chance of making people who are channeling something stumbling and basically eliminating them from the fight for a little while. I find it quite essential. It's actually even more people solo assaulting these days than usual, and the interrupt is very invaluable. Also, you just catch people off. People wielding the resto staff to get magicka back, you will absolutely mess them up. While when they're charging that heavy attack, you can interrupt them with an arrow, and it's all over from there. So that is my heavy recommendation. I know it's the most popular way it's been used, but there's a good reason for that. Poison injection will give you a few more damage points. I really don't think it is enough to justify it. I understand that the idea being that it's the follow-up to your snipe, and you get a slight extra bit of damage because they're likely to be lower health. That is also just as circumstantial as Venom Arrow. If you're only soloing, poison injection it might really work for you, because if you're only solo, you have to rely on taking those targets out on your own as ASAP. That might be, if you're only going to solo, that would be a very good choice. Yeah, the idea being you're just going to take it one target at a time. Whereas if you're likely to hit situations, even for example 2-on-2, I think the benefits of Venom Arrow just grow exponentially from there. The bigger the fight is. Now, everyone needs to have some level of escape on their bar, or a getaway move. One of these items is actually extremely good as an offensive tool as well. And so I've got 3 different most used. Now, I know not everyone's a vamp, but a lot of us are. For very obvious reasons. The passives are great. It's a double-edged sword, of course. It's got its own drawbacks, but Lucid Mist is up there for those of you who want to use vampire abilities or have the option to. Now we've got these are the only real 3 options we've got for getting away. So the most commonly used at the moment is Dark Cloak. I get given a lot of flack because I don't use it from some people in my guild, who are both 2 of the archers that I'm aware of using at the moment. It is the most defensive option between obviously Dark Cloak and Shadow Disguise. It gets rid of fire trebuchet or or blisters or whatever. The burning damage from that, the burning damage from oil pots. That's the couple of major issues that it does there. And also sometimes gets rid of a dot on you that would break your cloak, but we all know that the cloaks are buggy anyway, and often will not work, even with the dots removed or not. I think the main thing is just being near an enemy at the wrong sort of position, and it seems to not let you stealth. Anyway, hopefully I can fix that soon. You've got 3 choices. So Dark Cloak is that. Shadow Disguise, I use it more for offense than for getting away, to be honest. So I use it for a guaranteed crit to reposition yourself. So when people often see you cloak, they're assuming that you're doing that for a defensive reason. I use Shadow Disguise, and you've probably seen my videos, to shift where I am. Perhaps throw people off maybe very slightly. It's only a short duration, but throw them off very slightly, and then get a guaranteed heavy attack critical, which can be pretty heavy. We're talking over 1k for the sniper build that we're talking about. That is a really good follow-up, particularly if you think you can't beat them. In 2 hits with a sniper and the follow-ups. Moving on to then using Shadow Disguise and the heavy attack is a good option. Now look, you do lose out on the defensive side of things for sure. Dark Cloak is going to get you away more often than a Shadow Disguise, but then if you're a vamp, you've got Elusive Mist, which can get you out of the action. I don't really know what causes it, but it is often quite easy to stealth at the end of a Elusive Mist run. So what I've been doing lately, I've been trialing this out, and it seems to be very, very good, especially now that weapon swapping is very quick as well. I have Shadow Disguise my bow bar, and Elusive Mist on my melee bar, so I've always got a level of escape, but I do have choices as well. I think the mist with the speed is very helpful in those sort of medium-sized fights, especially where you don't really want to be removed from the fight. but your team's going to be able to benefit if they're hitting on you while you're in misform, and it gives you a chance to once again reposition yourself, which I think is a very important factor in PvP. But having said that, Dark Cloak is still a really good option. So there's no bad choices here. Everything I'm going through here is meant to be the good choices. So all three of these are good choices for your getaway options. And as I said before, you can use it on both bars, or one on one and one on the other. Whatever's going to work for you. Alright, moving now on to the your fourth options, I guess. These could be your fourth and fifth options on your sniping bar, your bow bar. The majority of bow users are having bow Nightblades, I should say. Not too many other classes are using bow that much, but piercing mark is the most common Nightblade archer skill. You find very few, still, maybe around about 5 to 10% Nightblades are using Ripper's Mark. I'm sure it has some sort of PvE benefit there. Piercing Mark is really important. People can stealth quite easily in PvP. Yep, sure, it could be quite a silly thing in the game, whatever the case would be. Piercing Mark is important. People pop an invis pot even. It doesn't have to be just related to people crouching or whatever. Piercing Mark will follow them. You might notice in some other videos I'll do a snipe followed up by a piercing mark to get both benefits of the armor debuff and not giving them too much of a warning that it's coming. That's one way of doing it. Similarly, you can do the exact same thing with Camouflage Hunter. I've tested it, it works. You can snipe and then Camo Hunter. The reason why you do that is not because you're going to be giving yourself away when you buff yourself with Camo Hunter, but if you're running out of time, you have to start the snipe, and you might not have the time to, when I say time, whoever you're targeting might be on the run or whatever the case would be. You start the snipe to make sure you get in time, and when it's on the move, you get Camo Hunter up. It does step up your combination of doing the light attack and venom arrow, whatever the case would be, or your heavy attack if you want to go for that. But that does work, just in case that's something you were wondering. So these two things, at the moment, I only use Camouflage Hunter, and that does draw some question marks from people. The reason why I'm not using Piercing Mark now is because I've got armor reduction on my bow, and Cyrodiil armor is not really that important. I know that some people got quite a lot of armor. The armor cap's still too low to make too much difference. That's just my opinion. And there's just so much reduction going on. I don't see much difference. I wanted to have a couple other things on the bar. Having said that though, it still works. Piercing Mark and Camouflage Hunter on the same bar works. Camouflage Hunter, obvious reason, vampires, and I don't know why, but a lot of people are getting the lycanthropy, or becoming werewolves, what do you want to call it. Scratching my head over that one. I know they're going to have buffs, but they're not out yet, so you wait until you get the buffs, and then you go and change it to something. At the moment, they're massively underpowered, and Camouflage Hunter still hurts them very badly as well. I'm digressing a little bit, but we all know why Camouflage Hunter is being used. It is really good ability. Piercing Mark, not as essential as everyone thinks, but I do still like it. It does follow people into stealth most of the time. If you're hitting a vamp, Piercing Mark is not going to make any difference. You can do a 3k burst with Camouflage Hunter on a vamp. So those you need one of those two on your bar. Absolutely in Cyrodiil at the moment, you need one of those two. Coming up to your final abilities now. Let's just say you didn't use Camouflage, you didn't use Piercing Mark, and you've left yourself one more spot. There's a couple of other things to throw on potentially. Now, if you're going with a stamina build like I am, you've got a choice between Swallow Soul. People still think I'm a bit silly for using that. I'll explain a little bit more about that now. Swallow Soul, the 10% healing is really good in small group stuff. Whenever I'm in a small group, I'm usually with a Templar. or a template that's either, you know, half a healer or fully spec to be healer. And that I find that quite useful because we don't have much other healing anyway, other than potions, and gives you some life back. And as I've explained before, if I need to apply some more pressure, that's what I'm using the solo soul for. For whatever reason, you seem to be able to spam it quite quickly with a bow equipped. I don't know if that's just a visual effect that's making me feel like it's faster than usual, but anyway, solo soul can be thrown pretty quickly, and sometimes you realise that your stamina is starting to deplete a bit too much, and you just need to keep up a little bit more damage. Solo soul is a good option as flick 2, which you'll notice I'll do that. Alternatively, you could have on your bar efficient purge. Biggest reason why I do this, first of all, if you're not running dark cloak, purge will get rid of those burning effects and stuff like that, which are really painful, especially if you're a vamp like myself. Alternatively, if you're finding that you're doing a lot of Nightblade versus Nightblade action and they're marking you all the time, purge will get rid of that. Obviously you want to go with the efficient purge morph because that will cost you way less. Okay, so I'm moving on to Meili now. I'm aware that putting a resto staff for a bit of utility in the second bar is a fairly good option. I'm not going to talk about that, and I think if you're going to go a very high stamina build, I really don't believe that anything beyond Meili as a second option is worth it. To be fair, because if you're going to get resto staff, you may as well be running Magicka related items, and you don't have enough Magicka to make it work properly. I know there's a lot of good hybrid builds out there, and they do work with the resto staff, but I don't really think it works well for a heavy stamina user. First of all, some people were wondering why I only used dual wield and wasn't able to comment on two-handed and one-handed shield. One-handed shield is really popular at the moment. I haven't used it myself yet. I still haven't used one-handed shield or two-handed. I've had a lot of good success with the dual wield as an alternative option, a secondary option, and haven't really felt the need to go. But I actually do see a huge amount of use from both one-handed shield. One-handed shield, for obvious reasons, is becoming very popular lately because of of course, firstly the defensive side of things, but you might be surprised about how effective it could be in a stamina build. So anyway, you've got the one-handed shield options there, and then you've also got the two-handed options. First things first, what you need on a Meili bar is a gap closer. That is absolutely 100% necessary to have on any Meili bar. We've got three options as a Nightblade. If you're dual wield, you have to use ambush. Alternatively, if you're two-hander, I think critical charge is much better, and even better is invasion if you're sword and shield. So I think both those options are really good, and that's the only a couple of the major reasons why I would change from dual wield. But at the moment we're going with I'm going with ambush just because I'm still using the dual wield. Moving on from there, you've got your direct damage options. So if you're dual wield, I think the number one thing you want to use is rapid strikes. First of all, because of how many people are blocking now, and blocking quite a lot, when you're up in their face, you want to deplete their stamina very quickly. We've had a few good fights with DKs, for example, and I've had to use Meili because I'm going to kill myself if I use the Venom Arrow and light attacks and heavy attacks against the reflective scales. So what I do instead is I jump in and start absolutely whooping their stamina down. Go in there and start hitting them as hard as possible with the flurry attack. Alternatively, you've got the slash with one-handed shield, and that is actually a fairly good upfront damage attack. Alternatively, you've got uppercut and the amorphs of that for big damage with a two-hander. I know it's a bit cumbersome to use. I have seen some people do quite well with it. Still, I want to go with Flurry for its quick attacks and its ability to drain stamina against blocking targets. Um, it actually is technically about the best DPS melee range option available. The danger is that you do miss some of the shots, so you might get your first 2 hits in, which are not what you're really looking for. You're looking for the entire combo, and then your opponent moves just out of range. That is the potential drawback of doing that. So obviously the options in Sword and Shield and Two-Hander um, are less likely for you to miss parts of the damage. Next on the list is you've got I put down CC options. I think there are some really good options for disabling the enemy in some way within close range. So I put some level of CC on my hotbar now. I had fourth option. I had been changing that quite a lot on my bar for quite some time. I talked about that in my previous build video. But I think now I've come to a conclusion that you must have some level of crowd control on your melee bar. I've been using mostly Mass Hysteria, and it's a great ability because I'm doing a lot more sort of small group stuff, and you can really sort of disorientate the enemy, but also make them break the CC and waste some stamina. A few seconds later, you can use it again. It is a little bit expensive. It's not super cheap, but it can really turn the tide of battle. They can still hold block when you're fearing them. So what I try and do is wait for an enemy to not be able to block. Run really low on stamina, and then do it. And then there's certain death from there because first of all you say you got the flurry going. Yeah, hitting them with flurry with no reduction in damage. You might have allies with you doing this, hitting them as well. It's really strong because they can't do anything about it. They can't use any abilities while they're feared, and if they're really low on stamina, they may be able to CC break and run out of stamina, and then they can't block or whatever the case be. So there's that's a really strong ability. A couple of other really good options is heated blades. Which is really good against other close range enemies that really want you to be up front in their face. Obviously they can't hit you when they're blocked by heated blades. Invigorating Drain, you don't see it often, but I've used it a couple of times lately, and I think there's some good use there. I think maybe if you're like an Endure trio, this might be like quite a handy option in there. I'd still prefer Mass Hysteria, but you might like the Life Drain. We don't have many, as Nightblades, we don't have too many options for healing, so that's one way to go. Just to quickly finish up, lastly we've got just to finish up, we've got the finishing moves. I think you need some level of finishing move on your melee bar. There's two, and I want to really quickly go through this one discussion here about the finishing move if you're using the Assassin's Blade morphs, and why I use Killer's Blade instead of Impale. Now I know it might seem obvious to use Impale because of the range. I have never ever once wanted to use a finishing move and not been right on top of them. So first of all, I'm only using this on my melee bar, and secondly, I'm never at a distance to them when I'm using this. The only reason why I would use Impale, first of all, maybe if I was the caster build, so using the Resto Staff, Impale will be a fantastic option. It is probably the ability to pick there. Or alternatively, if you're using a Flying Blade sort of build with dual build, that Impale, because you probably want to keep it at a medium distance to your target. If you're using Flying Blade build, Impale will be definitely the way to go. Killer's Blade, people say, "Oh, aren't you ever like not close enough or whatever?" I don't think it's ever happened where I wanted to use the finisher and not being right on top of their body. If I'm using the bow, I'm taking up people from way too far away from Impale anyway. So
I'm never seen to be at that medium distance to a target, um, and stuck in melee. I'm always if I'm gonna use the killer's blade, I'm already using the flurry right on top of them and ready to use it, or I'll kill them before that, or whatever the case would be. Obviously, there's a better option out there if you're using two-hander. I think execution is a really strong ability, and if you are using two-hander, I would say that's a better option than the killer's blade, or impale options. But anyway, that rounds up the video. Hopefully you've had some sort of tips as far as building a sniper build if you're kind of stuck for that, or maybe you're thinking of an alt for this kind of thing, and so hopefully you got some tips from that. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video, and look forward to having some more footage coming out soon. We'll be trying to put together some better footage soon. The difficult thing is, whenever I've made a video, particularly the solo ones, I've wanted to make the next one have tougher fights than the previous. So other than the second video, because that was a bit of fun, but that's become the struggle now, where I'm trying to get only really amazing solo fights to add in. But the difficulty above that is that I haven't been soloing as much, so stay tuned, it will come eventually. I'm slowly putting together sort of 1vx kind of videos, and hopefully some more group stuff if you guys enjoyed that as well, because our guild is getting started to mesh quite well, and hopefully there'll be some really good fights we'll be able to put together soon. So please look forward to that. In the meantime, I hope your Nightblades are going well, and I hope you've starting to find some great success in the field. I'm now at Chillrend because of the that's the new active server, so hopefully I can see some of you guys out there soon. Alright, take care.